Right. So, Sasha, my first question to you is about uh, it takes you back about a year to when you just started racing in Formula E. You did your debut race at Seoul back in 2022 in the Gen 2 car. And now you've also driven the Gen 3 car. So, what do you think is like the biggest difference between both the Gen 2 and Gen 3 Formula E car?
I think the biggest difference. I mean, I haven't driven a lot the Gen 2 as you know, but the biggest difference I felt is definitely having that front regen now, the front motor, and we start recharging from the front axle and the rear axle. And at the beginning, it was a bit weird the way we brake. We use the brakes because it's quite different to what we had in Gen 2. So the driving style was a little bit different. We went from Formula E went from Michelin to Hankook tires. There was a huge difference in terms of in many things, of stiffness of the tire, general grip of the tire, and that's our contact to the ground. And tires is the biggest. I think I was quite surprised by the difference from manufacturer to manufacturer, but the driving itself of the car was definitely quite more tricky with the Gen 3, especially in the races when you want to be very efficient, let's say, of your way of driving. You don't want to be sliding all over the place and etc., compared to Gen 2, which was slightly, let's say, different. But then in qualifying, it's still a Formula car. You push it to the limit. We had good performance in qualifying. So in qualifying, it's just driving to the limit of the car. It's always, let's say, pretty much similar. The biggest difference was on the race with the front regen, and the way of driving the car.
That's actually amazing. Many people were actually saying, I also read an article somewhere about how it took quite a lot of time to adjust to the Hankook tires and how they acted and all that.
Mm. Yeah. It was the biggest difference, as I said. I think the tire, of course, the car, it's completely, everything was changed. But the tires, as I said, this is our contact to the ground, and this is a very one of the most important tools in terms of trying to find the right way of using the tires. And it definitely took quite a bit of time to find the operational window, the temperatures, and etc. of the tire. But after a season, we are pretty confident now of what we need to do, to be in the right windows.
I can imagine that 1 year of data is going to be very helpful for next year.
Yeah.
And also with the Gen 3 cars, you said it's actually a lot trickier to drive. Do you think it's the increased power and the top speed that make it trickier to drive?
Yes, I would say definitely the power, because I mean overall they gave us they basically gave us a more powerful car, with the 350 kilowatts, a lighter car, and also the tires having slightly less grip overall. And as you know, we race in street circuits, so just by thinking that way, it just makes it difficult, because as I said, we have a slightly lighter car. The car is moving a lot with the new tires having a little bit less grip, so you're constantly fighting the car. So yeah, it has been pretty tricky, as you might have seen. I mean, in qualifying, as I said just before, it's you just push to the limits of the car, the tires, and it's quite different. All the differences I felt was, especially in the racing side of things, where yeah, you have to be, let's say, very clean on how you drive the car.
I truly agree with that. I could imagine like if you have lesser grip from the tires and even more powerful car, like you're more prone to sliding and whatnot. I sort of
Exactly.
visualize it, imagine,
Exactly.
and shout out to you for doing amazingly well, even qualifying, even then.
Thank you. And next year, amazingly well in races also, you'll see.
Yes, yes, don't
We
worry.
hope.
I'm rooting for you. For
Thank
that's
you.
one thing. And yeah, actually coming to qualifying, my next question was about that. So basically, we there were many races when you actually put in some stupendous qualifying performances, even right from the first race of the season at Mexico, and then later at Cape Town when you set that record lap in Formula E history. and even later at Monaco before that lap got deleted. But what would you say about setting records? And what do you think helped you uh, drive that level and pace consistently, like all through the season?
I mean, I think it's just confidence with the car. Well, first, thank you for the nice comments, but I think it's just the confidence with the car. Firstly, it's very different to what I was racing the year before that. It was Super Formula, for example, and for me, especially this arriving speeds to the corner and etc. was of course a little bit different to Super Formula. And for me, finding those limits maybe was just easier in a way. Of course, Mexico, the first race in Mexico, we went through the duels in our first qualifying, and the whole team, we were all very happy. And then Cape Town, we had a good one. Monaco, I still feel like I got the pole, even though it was taken away. So it's just I think driving the car to its limits, as I said, it's a little bit easier than the races. That's why we saw a bit of a difference between qualifying and race for me, because the driving style is extremely different. And for me, to find the limits in a qualifying lap or having that pressure in qualifying was always the way to go. I mean, for me, I like to drive under pressure, and qualifying, especially when you go through the duels, you have one lap, and there's a huge pressure. You have the whole team. You have Maria shouting there in the background, for sure. Trying to have a good qualifying, and that pressure for me, it's a positive pressure, and it helps me, to in a way perform in qualifying and also in races, but also qualifying definitely.
Truly agree with that. It's a lot of it is about confidence and whatnot. Just throw the car around and then see where it gets you. What I feel is more
Mm,
impressive is
yeah.
that you got the pole position. I mean, both your pole positions before one of them did not happen. You got them on street circuits. The barriers are frighteningly close, and then it's like you always have to push to the limit. So, like, how do you like? I'm not sure how to put this, but how do you manage to like just keep going fast even when you see like there's a barrier there and then one mistake and it's all over. So how do you like manage
How
that?
to deal with it? Yeah, I mean, as I just said, it's for me, it's just pressure. When you're driving through street circuits, I've always enjoyed a lot the street circuits in my whole career. And it's just that extra pressure that you have, that that you don't have any room for mistakes. That you have the wall just there, and you have to push the car to its limits. You have to be as close as possible to the walls to gain advantage, let's say, overall on the track. And I would say it's just in terms of pressure, that for me that pressure is positive, and it helps me, sorry, to drive the car to its limit and push. And of course, sometimes you go over the limits, as you might have seen. Well, Cape Town is a perfect example. I was touching the wall in the qualifying. I mean, there's many times.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, to answer your question, I would say how to deal with it. It's a tricky question to answer. But for me, it's just that pressure helps me to perform in qualifying. So of putting everything together in one lap. You have a huge team behind you. All of that pressure together kind of boosts me to push the car to its limits in qualifying.
absolutely amazing to hear that. And that must be an amazing feeling when everyone's like pushing and like cheering for you, and then you just get all that adrenaline and to push even harder.
Yeah, and of course it's. I mean, for me, I love to see the team happy, and when we perform well in qualifying, or even the races. But we're talking about qualifying now. When you come back to the box, or when you jump out of the car after a good qualifying, and you see the whole team happy, it's like, cool. I did my job. I did what I could with what I had sometimes, and yeah, it's a pretty happy. It's a pretty nice feelings to have.
Great. And here's looking forward to more of that in 2024, I can say.
Definitely, definitely. I'm looking forward to hopefully many more pole positions, podiums. Hopefully my first podium it's near here the time, let's say. But yeah, definitely looking forward to those kind of results.
Just hoping to see Sacha Fenestraz on podium next year.
I hope also. Yeah, that would be a dream come true, definitely, to have a podium in a world championship. So we were close this year in season 9, as we said earlier, in Cape Town as an example, in Monaco, I mean, many times. But yeah, I think it will come. It's just about time and waiting and putting everything together.
True that. Definitely looking forward to it.
Indeed.
And now let's move to another one, actually. You know, Formula E goes to new tracks every year. I mean, last year you guys went to 4 new tracks. And even this year you're going to quite a number of new tracks. Misano, then you're going to
Yeah.
Tokyo, going to Shanghai. Even the Berlin layout has been revamped quite a
Changed.
bit. So, how do you adapt to these new tracks and get to know the layout and the important points on the track, like the overtaking zones and everything?
I mean, we do a lot of simulator, and for us, it's a very important tool to well, to train, to get to know the track. And as you say, this year we had, well, season 9, sorry, we had a lot of new tracks, and for me it was the perfect time to jump into Formula E, because we had a new car and many new tracks, so everything, it's a bit, let's say, easier in a way compared to compare with everybody. And now, of course, this, well, season 10, we have we have quite a few new tracks also, but some of them being more permanent tracks, like we had in Portland. So we'll see how it goes. I'm really looking forward to Tokyo. Of course, it's our first ever home race. It's kind of my second or third home for me. I was living there for 3 years, so we were in Japan until like week ago or week and a half ago, and we can see all the excitement of the Japanese fans looking forward to the race. So for us, it's going to be a huge event. A lot of pressure for the driver, maybe, to try to perform very well there. But again, it's going to be great, and I think the way we prepare those races is just with a lot of simulator. I do a lot of mental work also on how to prepare the races, which I feel like it's very important. And then on the track walks, you try to gather as much information that you can, just so when you jump into the car, there is nothing new happening.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can imagine you guys going to a new track and then you're being quick right from the off, and it's an amazing thing to see that.
Yeah, it's tricky, sometimes, especially in for example, in India, Hyderabad, the track was extremely dirty. I mean, it was so much sand on the track. And the lap times are just evolving a lot throughout even a session, 30-minute sessions. And it makes it very tricky for the driver, because you want to be pushing the limit, but if you just go over the limit, or you go off the racing line, because it's so dirty, it's so easy to do a mistake and crash, or touch the wall, and that's your session finished. So yeah, it's quite tricky to push the limit straight away on the beginning of the weekends.
That's actually, like, quite crazy. The new tracks usually, they're like, they aren't rubbered in and all that. It's a
Yeah,
lot more difficult and trickier.
yeah.
uh, Right. And actually, my next question is about your season as a whole. Like, actually, when you look back at the 2023 Formula E season and look at your performance, what would you say to like describe it?
How will I describe my season 9? Maria maybe can answer that. No, I would say, if I had to choose like a word, I would definitely say it was a positive first Formula E season for me. We had quite a few good qualifyings. We had good races. We were very close to the podiums in many occasions. We were running first quite a few numbers of races. So I mean, if you would have told me that a year ago, I wouldn't have believed you. So, that I was going to have pole positions, I was going to be leading quite a few races. So, it was a very positive first Formula E season, definitely.
Definitely agree. was very, very positive. I've remembered like writing about you in reports as well. Like, oh wow, Sacha Fenestraz put in a great qualifying session. No,
Thank you.
I remember doing that for Mexico, especially. And then I should probably send you that article which I wrote, which had section about your qualifying.
Uh, well, thanks. Yeah, it was a good qualifying. Mexico, I mean, we were still far. I think we qualify eighth or seventh. I don't really remember exactly, but we were still quite far back. But for us, I mean, with quite a lot of new team members, my first ever qualifying in Formula E. Well, I had Seoul, but it wasn't really comparable. And jumping straight into the duels was quite a good achievement, and even I nearly, but just with a small mistake in the duel, I could have even maybe go to the quarterfinals or the quarterfinals or the semifinals. So it was a good qualifying there as a first one.
Yeah, definitely agree on that. I guess they say the first impression is the best impression, and I think you've
I
created a very
agree.
good first impression
Yeah,
on people.
exactly. I mean, when I jump into even the first time into the Gen 3, it's as you just said, it's your first impression is the good one, and the impression or the feeling, let's say, for me in the car when I first jumped in, I kind of enjoyed it already. So yeah, maybe also, that helps with the confidence.
Agree with that totally. And then now here's another interesting one. Formula E went to Portland last year and on a more permanent road course. And the race, as we saw, was like pretty action packed. It's quite a fair bit of overtaking and whatnot. So, like, I'd want to hear it from your point of view. Do you think Formula E should go more often to permanent circuits, or should it be should it retain the largely the DNA of being a street circuit oriented series?
I think I mean, I'm a big fan of street circuits, and the Formula E's DNA, it is circuits in reality, has always been. So I will definitely say it would be great if it is that way of having more street circuits in a lot. And in terms of safety and etc., sometimes we might have to go to certain locations with more like kind of permanent tracks. But in my hope, in my will, definitely, I wish we can stay more on straight circuits because it's something I enjoy a lot. It's something that it's in the Formula E's DNA, let's say. And the fans, they can come easily to the track. To the city track and see the cars and etc. So for me, I hope it stays that way of straight circuits.
Definitely, there's quite a lot of it based off street circuits, and the street circuits have actually sort of ingrained themselves into Formula E's DNA. Like, earlier on, they used to race on street circuits, and people used to remember them for quite a lot. But yeah, that's one thing.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it's something. I mean, for me, I enjoy a lot. As I said earlier, it's that constant pressure that you have as a racing driver of not committing any mistakes and pushing the car to its limit while having the walls very close. It's something I enjoy a lot.
Agree with that. It's a surreal feeling, right? So now you're going into your second season of Formula E, and in 2024. And what are you like most looking forward to? Is it a new race, a new racing certain drivers, or just coming back to the sport in the second year and looking to like do better based off your past
I'm
experience?
looking forward to you know exactly. I'm looking forward to putting all the experience I've gathered through season 9. That's my most excitement for next year for season 10 because I've learned a lot through my first season in Formula E. This after season, I've worked a lot with the team. I think I did 16 or 18 days of sim work to work on my weak points, which of course is the race side of things. So I'm really looking forward to season 10 on performing, better. I'm starting my second season. I'm not anymore a rookie now, so looking forward hopefully to scoring many points. Hopefully some podiums together with Ollie.
I'm definitely vouching for you, like I've said a couple of
Thank
times.
you. Thank
Right
you.
then, I think that's it.
Well, thank you very much.